What is going on, everybody? I am back with a video response to an article. I have not done one of these types of videos in a very long time, so you know that this article has to be really something special for me to actually want to make a video response to it. And I'm not joking when I say that this article right here has to be one of the absolute worst gaming articles I have ever read in my entire life. And shockingly, it's not from the usual suspects at Polygon and Kotaku. It's from Android Central, of all places, which is just interesting. And yes, I follow Android Central because I have an Android phone. A Galaxy S10 Plus to be precise, and it is a damn good phone and I highly recommend it. But I follow them on Twitter and I saw them tweet this article out right here. And by the way, here's a shameless plug. I am on Twitter, obviously. It's the best way to contact me or to interact with me. I'm on there a lot, so feel free to follow me if you'd like. Shameless plug. But anyway, I saw them tweet this article. Sony needs more than good games and beastly specs for the PlayStation 5 to dominate the next Xbox. And when I saw that, I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Because I can understand the argument for these separate things right here, games and specs. Like, I can understand someone saying, okay, you can have all the games in the world, but if your hardware is weak, you can't take advantage of those games. I understand that completely. For example, the Nintendo Switch is a perfect example of that. It's got a lot of games on it, and Nintendo has done a great job at building up the Switch game library, but the hardware is so weak that it can't take advantage of a lot of these games. And then talk about the beastly specs. Yes, power is not the only thing you need. You could have the most powerful console in the world. For example, the Xbox One S is the most powerful console in the world, yet what has that done for Xbox? It's done absolutely nothing. So I can understand both of those things separately, but together? Because that's the perfect combination. Having great games, the most games, and the most powerful device, that's the ultimate formula. So I just couldn't believe it when I saw this, and I had to think that, maybe this is clickbait, because a lot of these websites do clickbait titles to get you to click on their article. And I understand that. It's what a lot of these places do, so I figured, okay, maybe they're just exaggerating to get you to click on the article. But no, it gets much worse. It gets much worse, and we're going to get into it. We're going to dissect this article. So here's the title: Sony can't just rely on good games for the PlayStation 5 to best the next Xbox. That, that's a little different than what's said here, by the way, which is interesting. Keep up the momentum and don't become complacent. I can understand that. It's perfectly reasonable. Perfectly reasonable. Sony has dominated this gen. I'm not going to go over everything word for word. I'm just going to skim through a lot of it, and we'll go over the most important parts, in my opinion. Talking about Xbox Game Pass. I'm going to get this right out of the way. First-party games are incredibly important. I completely agree. PlayStation absolutely needs them to remain successful. I'm arguing that with Microsoft going all in on first-party games, though it remains to be seen to what degree of success, Sony needs to turn at least some of its attention to other features. I agree with that, but there's a little part here that they're missing. This Microsoft going all in on first-party games. First off, that's an assumption. We still don't know what Microsoft is going to be doing with these studios they've acquired. We don't know if they're going to be fully taking advantage of these studios, because there's a lot of studios that Microsoft has bought over the years, and they've done nothing with them. The biggest example being Rare. Rare was one of the most successful developers of the 1990s and the early 2000s. They made a ton of great games for Nintendo. They were one of my favorite developers of all time. Microsoft bought them and did absolutely nothing with them. Nothing. So just because Microsoft bought these studios, that doesn't mean they're going to go all in and have these amazing first-party games. Which, by the way, is another point here that they're not mentioning. They're not going to be exclusive to Xbox. They're also going to be on PC. So this really isn't going to help Xbox itself, no matter how great these games are. So let's move on. This generation saw some of the very best Sony has had to offer with all these great games right here. These great exclusives, by the way. Exclusives. Okay. Right here. This basically right here is saying that multi-plat games pretty much sell more than exclusives. To which I say, duh, no shit, they do. That's obvious. It has always been like that. If your game is on more than one platform, chances are it's going to sell more than a game that's on one platform. So, what's the point here? I don't understand what this point is that is supposed to be against Sony and supposed to prop up Xbox. It doesn't make sense. And why it doesn't make sense is because multiplats sell more on PlayStation. PlayStation has a large user base compared to Xbox. So, they still sell more on PlayStation, and I don't really see that changing anytime in the future. So I don't know what this point is trying to make here. And they're trying to compare, this is what's also funny, they're trying to compare Spider-Man, which came out last year, to Halo 3? Halo 3, a game that came out in 2007. That was 12 years ago. Yes, you heard me right. It came out 12 years ago. Not only does that make me feel old, because I was at the midnight launch for that game. Halo 3 was such an amazing game. One of my favorite games of all time on the 360. Excuse me. What's the point of bringing this up? Why are you trying to compare Halo 3 to Spider-Man for PS4? Why? Why are you trying to do that? Because guess what? Xbox during 2007 is a lot different from Xbox in 2019. For example, Xbox in 2007, actually tried to have exclusives that were only available on Xbox 360, which means you needed to buy an Xbox 360 to play a game like Halo 3. So, yeah, that's not a fair comparison. I don't see what the point is. Why don't you use a current Xbox game for a comparison? How about Sea of Thieves? How about State of Decay 2? How about Crackdown 3? Oh, wait, you're not using those games because those games did not sell at all. For many reasons. One being they're available on Xbox Game Pass, which means people don't actually have to go out and buy the game to play it. They just have to pay for Game Pass. So that's funny. Moving on. Right here they talk about how Nintendo is a special case for the comparison here. You're right, they are, because people buy Nintendo devices specifically to play Nintendo games. That's how it's always been for the past few generations now. Which is also why Nintendo will always be, to the majority of people, the secondary device. They might lead in handhelds, because I don't know if Sony is ever going to make another handheld, and even if they do, it probably won't sell more than a Nintendo handheld anyway. But regardless, Nintendo will always be that secondary console to most people. So that's also not really a fair comparison to make here. And then right here we talk about indie games, which is funny because PlayStation used to get made fun of for indie games. They used to be called the Indie Station 4. I don't know if how many of you remember that. They were called the Indie Station. By, ironically, Xbox fanboys. And now Xbox has done actually a solid job when it comes to indie games. They are opening themselves more up to indie games, which is great. But what does this mean? Sony did not get rid of indie games. As far as I know, I mean, I've heard rumors from podcasts and other reports that Sony is probably not treating indie devs as well as they used to. Once again, I don't know if that's true or not because I'm not in the industry. All I can go by is what I see in front of my face. And I see all these indie games still coming to PlayStation 4. So, once again, what is this supposed to mean here? Indies will always be on PlayStation 4, and I don't really see that changing unless someone from Sony outright just bans indie games, which they're not going to do. They're not going to do that. And this is what's funny here. Sony can't put all of its eggs in one basket. When the hell has Sony done that? When have they done that? I can't think of a time that Sony has ever done that. Now, maybe at the beginning of the PlayStation 3, they were mostly just going for power, like we're the most powerful console on the market. But honestly, that's still debatable, and I can't think of any other time. Sure as hell ain't with the PlayStation 4. They have not put all their eggs in one basket. I don't know what the hell this is supposed to mean, too. They still talk about how you need also services and features. So what services and features are you talking about? We still haven't got to that yet. We're still deep into this article. We have not gotten to any of these services and features. Which, by the way, PlayStation has services and features. It's just... Yeah. By the way, we haven't gotten to some of the best parts yet, by the way. Yeah, we're talking about the powers, the features, and here we're getting to VR. And I'm going to skim through this here because Microsoft doesn't even have a VR headset right now. They were going for Microsoft HoloLens at one point, but that was a few years ago. They haven't talked about it at all since that E3 where they showed it off. So it's really no competition here when it comes to VR. Oh, here it is. Here's the good part right here. An area where Sony needs to prove its PlayStation Now, which, by the way, I agree with. Here's the problem, though. When you compare it to Microsoft's streaming service, which, by the way, I don't think is out yet, by the way, PlayStation Now sorely falls behind in terms of its incentives. But here's a point that the article is not making. Once again, articles are supposed to be about facts. You can have opinion, but you're also supposed to present the facts, too. PlayStation Now has more users than services on Xbox. For all the fault that PlayStation Now has, it still has a ton of users. Isn't that what's important? That's what people say about Game Pass. And Game Pass is great because it has all these subscribers. Okay, then PlayStation Now must be great because it has a lot more subscribers. Yes, PlayStation Now needs to be improved upon, but you need to point that out as well, that it's still a success at the end of the day. And here's the best part. This got me rolling right here. Microsoft offers all first-party games day one for Xbox Game Pass subscribers, which, by the way, it devalues the games. Just saying. The same cannot be said for first-party Sony titles on PlayStation Now. It never took off the way it could have. So you trying to say that Sony should have put all of their first-party games on PlayStation Now? Are you fucking insane? You have lost it. Why the hell should Sony put all of their first-party games on PlayStation Now? Which, by the way, since you say PlayStation Now has issues, why would you want them to do that? That's stupid. Number two, the reason Sony doesn't do that is because, unlike Microsoft, they're confident in their first-party games. They are confident that they will sell. And guess what? They do sell. They sell. So, the person who wrote this article wants Sony to devalue their first-party games like Microsoft has devalued theirs. Wow. That is unbelievably ridiculous. ridiculous. Okay, they're still talking about PlayStation Now here. And now we get into PlayStation Plus. Sony should also continue its PlayStation program, yet, of course. 2 free games every month, which, by the way, they need to prove upon that. They took away PS3 and Vita games, and only leave us with now 2 PS4 games a month, which I think they should do 2 PS4 games, an indie game, and then maybe a VR game. I think that would be a lot better. Oh, look what I just did. I just gave a constructive criticism to Sony. Gee, imagine that. An actual, fair, constructive criticism. You know, maybe this person should try that next time, the person who wrote this article. But anyway, I'd even go a step further and say that Sony should offer a couple of free PS5 games every month and continue to offer PS4 games as well as PS5. How the fuck can they do that at the beginning when there aren't that many PS5 games? And in the beginning, by the way, I'm pretty sure a lot of PS5 games will probably have a PlayStation 4 version because the PlayStation 4 has sold almost 100 million units. It might have crossed 100 million by now. I don't know. All I know was close last time I checked. The PS5 games will probably also be on PS4 because Sony already has a huge user base there. They can't do that at the beginning. They can't do that. Oh my god, that's stupid. It's stupid. And they talk about Microsoft doing it with games with Gold, 2 Xbox One and 2 360 games. Yes, they do that because the 360 is backwards compatible with the Xbox One. That's why they do that. Sony ain't doing that for PS3 because the PS4 isn't backwards compatible. Otherwise, they might have still do that. I don't know. It's hard to say. But to say that Sony should start offering PS5 games in the beginning of the PS5's life cycle is stupid. It's fucking stupid. And no, they're not going to get rid of it. They're not going to get rid of it. Why are you even saying that? PS Plus was introduced during the PS3's life cycle. It was optional. Why the hell would they get rid of it now? That's stupid. And right here we're talking about price. And yes, completely agree. Pricing is very important. But guess what? We can't really talk much about that right now because they haven't announced any prices. They haven't. Just because PlayStation is king of the hill right now doesn't mean it will always be. Comfort and success breed complacency, not innovation. That's what lit a fire under Microsoft to do better in the latter half of this generation. What? What? Once again, this is an opinion. I, for one, am of the mindset that Microsoft has not done better in the latter half of this generation. I think they've done the quite opposite. They have devalued Xbox so much that you don't need an Xbox to play any Xbox games anymore. They've completely devalued it and pretty much is basically telling you, you know what, you're better off just getting a PC. Microsoft is developing PC exclusives over Xbox. They don't care about Xbox anymore. It's just a device. It's just a cheap PC to them at this point. So is this the end? Yep, it's the end of this article. So, yeah. This has to be one of the worst articles I've ever read in my life. And it's just, to me, it's just this paranoia that we have something to worry about when it comes to PlayStation 5. Now, granted, Sony could screw up. It's possible. It's highly unlikely at this point, but it is possible. But once again, we have to wait and see until we get at least some credible information about the systems. But right now, we have very little, if nothing at all, about these new systems. So until we get this information, we can't speak about it really. We just can't. So, alright, that is the end of the video. Please let me know what you think down below. And until next time, you all have a good one.